Hello and welcome back to Beckler Guitars and Repair, and today we're checking out a garage sale find. I got this guitar for $5 at a garage sale, and it needs a lot of work, so we're going to get it up and running and see how good it is. This is a Yamaha SE110. Let's check it out. So I'm always checking out pawn shops and garage sales looking for deals on guitars, and I stopped at a garage sale yesterday, and this one was kind of in a corner, buried by some stuff, with a $5 price tag on it. So I asked the owner about it. She said it was a brother's of hers that had left it there. It hadn't been used in years. She wasn't sure if it worked. It's missing strings. So yeah, I said I would try to fix it up, and I gave her $5. So here it is. So this is a 1987 Yamaha SE110, and this is kind of like the Tom DeLonge Strat before the Tom DeLonge Strat. So it's just got one humbucker, one volume knob. It's got a floating bridge, and I was able to find some specs on it. So this is a basswood body. So it's very light. It's actually got a Babinga fingerboard, which is kind of a cool wood to be used on a fretboard. And it's got a NATO neck, which is like kind of a cheaper, kind of a mahogany style wood. And these were made in Taiwan. So I don't know much about this guitar. I basically just picked it up and brought it here. We're going to go through everything on camera. We're going to make sure everything works, fix anything that doesn't, and try to get it in the best playing condition as possible, and then do a demo. So yeah, it looks like the nut's coming off here. I'm not sure if this is the original nut or not. It seems to fit. Plastic nut. And the frets look okay. They're not like pitted or anything else like that, but they definitely need a polish and a cleaning. We've got to check them to see if they're level too. It's in not bad condition, a few bumps and scrapes here and there. And this knob is super tight, like super hard to move. So it might be an issue with this pot. We'll have to see. I'm not sure if the electronics work at all. I need to plug it in. The trim appears to work just fine. And our string spacing on the neck's okay. And as far as the back goes, again, not bad condition. A few scrapes and dings here and there. And looks like we've got some like pretty inexpensive type import tuners, missing a few screws there. But all right, let's get it on the bench and start taking some specs. This would have been good for the Halloween episode. Looks like we've got a haunted guitar here, 6 pounds, 6.6 ounces, so very light. And that's 2.9 kilograms. So I am getting a reading from the pickup, so that is encouraging. I'm gonna have to fix this knob, it's way too stiff. But the pickup is reading a 9.19 from the specs that I could find online. This is a ferrite humbucker or ceramic. Let's have a look at the electronics here. So yeah, super simple. We've got one import humbucker there. It says online this is a ceramic humbucker. Although it's reading pretty low for a ceramic, it's reading a 9.38, but again, it just depends on how it's wound. There's our little mini pot here. This is a 500K pot, and this is a look at our output jack. It's kind of a weird style I haven't really seen too often. The route looks nice and clean. You've just got the humbucker part there, and then the cavity for the other part of the electronics. There is room here that you could put another tone control if you wanted. Or obviously you could switch out the humbucker too. And the routs look nice and clean. While I'm in here, I'm just going to see if I can do something about the stiffness of this mini pot here. It's probably just some corrosion or gunk over the years. So I'm going to use this contact cleaner, this electric cleaner, and I'm just going to spray it right inside the pot here where the posts are so I can get right into the components. And then I'm just going to work the knob back and forth. I can already feel it loosening up. So that's great. And this is a great way to clean your pots too if you're getting any scratching. It's basically the same thing. You just spray inside of the pot and then work it back and forth. And that'll usually get rid of any cutting out or crackling as well. Alright, here's a look at our neck. There's no writing or anything else like that. You can see the NATO wood there in the screw holes. It looks similar to mahogany. And then there's our truss adjustment here at the end. And yeah, let's have a quick look at the neck while it's out. It needs a cleaning, but that Babingo wood is pretty good looking. It looks like kind of a lighter rosewood. It looks like there's acrylic dot inlays. Again, no major fret wear at all. It all looks pretty good. I need to check it with a fret rocker to make sure it's nice and level. I can check it right now to see if it needs a truss adjustment, because obviously we need to do that while it's off of the body. I can see using my notch straight edge that the neck is perfectly straight, which is good. That's pretty much how I like it without any string tension on there, because once you put string tension on, it should give it a little bit of a gap. It'll give it some natural relief in the neck because of the tension of the strings. So I'm just going to leave it right there. Again, I can always take it off quickly and adjust it even with the strings on. And here's a look at our neck pocket. So I noticed that the action with the rest of the strings, because it was missing some strings, was still pretty decent. And there's no shims in here at all. So that's a good sign. You can see some factory writing in there. Looks like it says SE110, which is the model, and then a factory stamp. And then you can see some of the grain of the basswood there. Let's check the fit of the neck in the neck pocket. So yeah, it's not especially tight. However, it's not crazy loose either. I've seen much worse fenders. There's no gaps between the neck and the neck pocket. Sometimes you see really big gaps in these, but it's not really a tight fit, but it's acceptable. So yeah, just checking the frets with a fret rocker, and there's definitely some spots that needed some attention. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and mark all the high spots, and then I'm going to go ahead and do a full fret level and recrown on this, because even without playing it, I know there's going to be issues because there are some significant rocks in this fingerboard. So that's what I'm going to do. And this can be a bit of a process, but I do have a video on how to do a full fret level recrown and polish that I'll link in the description if you're interested. But it's not too big of a process. I think most people can tackle it with a few simple tools, and it doesn't take too long. I think this whole process will probably take around 20 to 40 minutes depending on just how it goes. All right, so that took about 24 minutes. And here are the results. So we've got super nice level frets. I just checked them with the fret rocker. They're all perfect. And I hydrated the fingerboard with some lemon oil. So now we can see that the frets are super shiny. There's no marks or indentations anywhere. And they're nice and level. And the fingerboard's nice and hydrated. So yeah, you can do this on your guitars too. And if you get good at it, it's just about 20 minutes or so. And I also wanted to mention that the fret ends are super nice and smooth. There was no work that needed to be done there. There's no fret sprout at all. And the Babinga actually looks quite nice. It's kind of that darky red color. It kind of resembles Brazilian rosewood to an extent. And you can see on the side here, it's actually quite a nice thick piece of wood as well. So, all right, the next thing I'm going to do is, it looks like this is the original nut, but it came knocked out. So there's actually no residue in the channel here. Normally, if you feel some residue, you'd want to take a chisel or, you know, a razor blade and clear that all out. But this one's nice and clean. So all I'm going to do is just put one drop of super glue there and put the nut back into place. You don't want to usually do more than like a drop of super glue, because if you ever need to take the nut off for work or anything else like that, it becomes a really big problem, and there's lots of residue underneath. You can break the nut, you can have chip out of wood, so usually one dot of super glue is just fine. Alright, so now I'm just going to put everything back together and put new strings on it and set it up, and then we can check the setup. I forgot to take a look in the back cavity, so let's do that quickly now. Nothing special, just you know, basic back cavity. It looks like the two springs are on the trim block there. Let's just check the trim block, and a magnet does not stick to the trim block, so that usually means it's kind of a cheaper potted metal, but the route looks nice and clean. So here it is, all cleaned up, restrung, intonated, tuned up. And so I'm going to have a quick look at the condition. There's a couple small dings on the headstock there. And on the body, a couple impressions you can see when held into the light. Some marks. But, you know, for being from 1987, it's in pretty nice shape, all things considered. And on the back, you can see when you hold it into the light, there are some scratches and dings and impressions, but nothing major, nothing that affects the guitar in any way. And then the neck is actually pretty nice and clean. There's not a lot of marks or anything on the neck. And then a couple more dings on the headstock here. You can make out the serial number, which says N114151. Made in Taiwan. And those are our machine heads. I am going to put two new screws in those holes there. I also had to put on a new strap button here because this one was missing. Alright, let's check the setup. So this guitar actually set up very nicely. So using my notch straight edge, you can see that there is just a very slight little gap between the straight edge and the fingerboard. So that tells us that there is not a lot of relief in the neck. It's set tightly, which is fine as long as you've got level frets, which this thing does. And here in the 3rd fret area, you can see that when I use the 3rd fret, that the string is sitting almost on that 1st fret. So that tells us that the nut is cut really well. We've got nice action over there. And then in the 12th fret area, On the low E at the 12th fret, it's sitting at about between a 0.75 and a 1, so very low action. And it's at about a 0.75 on the high E. So yeah, very nice low action. Again, that's due to the fret level. We probably couldn't get the action that low without buzz, without the full fret level that we did. And using the specs I found online, this is a 25.5 inch scale. So let's just double check that. So yeah, this is a 25.5 inch scale, and it's got a 13.75 radius. So a little flatter than Gibson. All right, I'm just gonna go up and down the fingerboard to make sure there's no buzzing or fretting out anywhere. I like to speed up this part, but if you wanna hear it in real time, just slow down your player to 25%. So yeah, no buzzing or fretting out anywhere, and really, really nice low action. And the frets feel great because they're super polished, and yeah, they're not gritty at all. They're super easy to bend, and there's no fret sprout at all. Feels nice and smooth on the sides, and it actually sounds quite nice acoustically as well. It has a nice ring to it. The neck feels good. Let's check the specs on the neck. Width at the nut is a pretty skinny 1.62 inches or a 41.26 millimeters. At the 12th fret, that is a 51.03 millimeters or a 2.009 inches. First fret neck depth is a 0.85 inches or 21.69 millimeters, and at the 12th fret, that's a 23.53 millimeters or a 0.92 inches. So sort of a narrow neck, but thick. So here's a look at the neck profile, just a standard C shape, and it stays quite rounded by the 12th. And sometimes with these light guitars you get neck dive, but not on this one. It stays exactly where you want it to. It's not neck divey at all. Today we're plugging into a new amp, so 80s guitar, 80s amp. This is a Sidekick Reverb 25. This is a solid state amp made during the era where Paul Rivera was designing amps for Fender. Joe Bonamassa just did a really cool video on this amp, and it's just a great sounding solid state amp that actually really does sound like a tube amplifier. It's super transparent, so every guitar that I plug in sounds different and like that guitar, like through a tube amp. And yeah, it sounds really great. So we're gonna run it clean and then with a little bit of distortion. So yeah, there's just one pickup and one volume, so I'm just gonna run through a little bit clean. Use the trem a little bit, make sure it stays in tune, and then we'll do a little bit of overdrive. plays really great. It sounds really good clean. That humbucker is really clear and articulate, and not too trebly, not too bassy, kind of that sweet spot right in the middle. So I'm not really missing a tone control with this. I've got my amp set flat as well. So yeah, it sounds really good. I'm gonna go ahead and try with a little bit of overdrive now. Alright, so what are my final thoughts on this $5 garage sale find 1987 Yamaha SC110 single pickup Tom DeLonge style guitar? It's great, and it was a lot less work than I thought it was going to be. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if the electronics were working. I didn't know if the parts are original, if there's going to be missing pieces, or if the neck was warped, or if the neck needed to be shimmed, or any of that. Basically, what it all ended up needing was everything worked. The nut was loose. It had to be re-glued back into place. It needed fret work for sure. It had a bunch of high frets. But, you know, with a 20-minute fret level and polish, it plays amazing. Super low action. And it bends like crazy. I was really impressed by the sound of the pickup. It was actually a really nice sound, clean or dirty, very articulate. And it wasn't too trebly, it wasn't too muddy. It was kind of right where you want it to be, which is great because there is no tone knob on this guitar. But again, there is space to put one in under the pickguard if so you choose. The wiring and the components seemed a little cheap. I mean, from Taiwan, obviously. Pretty easy to upgrade, you know, one pot and an output jack, though, and then add another pot for tone and put in a good capacitor in there because I really like the pickup. So the wiring, you know, it was cheap quality, but it sounded fine. Stayed in tune really well. This trem worked super well, even though it's obviously seems kind of, you know, a more inexpensive trem. It did stay in tune really, really well, even though the tuners seemed cheap as well. I noticed on the tuners there was a little bit of play in them when tuning, but ultimately they did stay in tune really well. They hold tune. I really like the neck. It's a little bit, you know, too narrow for my big hands, but I played it no problem. I didn't find it uncomfortable. And I like the thickness of the neck too. So it's kind of a thicker neck, but a little bit narrower. But it felt great to play. The Babinga fingerboard looks great. It's super nice and dark and streaky. It almost looks like Brazilian rosewood. So you could have fooled me. but all the specs that I'm seeing online call it Babinga. But yeah, it looks great. There's no neck dive on this guitar. It sits on a strap really well. Super light, you know, 6.5 pounds. And just a super fun, comfortable guitar to play. And again, most of the single pickup guitars I play sound great. I don't know if it has to do with, you know, the neck pickup affecting the magnetism of the strings or something like that. Who knows what it is. But most single pickup guitars I play sound great. And this one is no exception. So if you're looking for like a Tom DeLonge style guitar, but you don't want to shell out, you know, that hefty price tag, you should check out one of these models. I'm pretty sure you can find them used for relatively cheap. Or if you're interested in this one, I'm going to have it for sale up on the Reverb page. You can check the link in the description. But that's going to be it for today. Thank you for tuning in to Beckler Guitars and Repair, and I'll have more for you really soon. Thanks a lot.